Across more than a century of Kentucky Derby winners, only 13 have gone on to capture the Triple Crown. These 3 races in the short time span of just 5 weeks, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, have crushed thousands of hopefuls. The Derby is speed under the twin spires, the Preakness is pressure in Baltimore, and the Belmont is a race of pure survival. In this video, you'll meet 13 Kentucky Derby winners that dominated Triple Crown season to rise above the grind, crush their rivals, and carve their names into racing history. Now, let's step back in time to meet the very first horse that proved to the world the Triple Crown was possible. We start at number 13 with Sir Barton. Back in 1919, the world didn't even know what a Triple Crown was. Sir Barton simply lined up, took the Kentucky Derby by storm, and never looked back. He won the Derby by 5 lengths, then stormed into the Preakness just 4 days later and cruised home again. By the time he reached the Belmont, he wasn't racing rivals. He was racing the clock. And he delivered, covering 1 mile and 3/8 in a blistering 2 minutes, 17 2/5, setting a new American record for the distance. At the time, nobody realized they were witnessing the very first sweep of the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont by one horse. And it wasn't until 1950 that the Thoroughbred Racing Associations officially crowned Sir Barton as the first Triple Crown champion. By then, his name had already become legend. He was a horse who set the standard, laid the foundation, and showed the world what true dominance looked like. There is always a pioneer that proves something can be done, but the next champion turned dominance into a family legacy. At number 12, we've got Gallant Fox. On Derby Day, he surged through the stretch and crossed the line 2 lengths clear, dazzling Churchill Downs with his smooth, commanding stride. In 2 weeks, he headed to Pimlico for the Preakness. This time, the pace was quicker and the pressure heavier, but Gallant Fox glided past his rivals and galloped home in style. 2 down, 1 to go. Then there was the Belmont Stakes, racing's ultimate test of stamina. At 1.5 miles, it has crushed countless champions, but not this one. Gallant Fox soared through the sweeping turns, stretching his stride with every furlong, and stopped the clock in 2 minutes, 31 3/5. The Triple Crown was his. Greatness didn't stop with him. Gallant Fox sired Omaha, who captured the Triple Crown just 5 years later. To this day, they remain the only father and son duo in racing's most exclusive club. A dynasty had begun, but the story was far from finished. The next champion would rise up out of his father's shadow. Taking his place at number 11 is Omaha. Derby Day, 1935, belonged to him. Gates flew, and Omaha drove into stride, his towering frame rolling down the stretch. He pulled clear by 1.5 lengths, the perfect mix of stamina and speed. Churchill Downs had witnessed the birth of another star. At Pimlico, the challenge stiffened. The pace burned hotter. But Omaha handled it with poise. He shifted gears in the stretch and stormed home. 2 classics secured, 1 left to claim. Next was the Belmont Stakes, the monster at 1.5 miles. Horses wilt there, but Omaha only grew stronger. His stride lengthened, his rhythm stayed true, and he finished 1.5 lengths ahead once more. Triple Crown complete. And Omaha's thunder carried farther than American soil. He traveled to England, nearly capturing the Ascot Gold Cup, proving his class belonged on the world stage. A dynasty lived through him, but Omaha's crown was entirely his own. The Triple Crown spotlight now shifted to a fighter whose grit would be tested at every turn. Next at number 10 is War Admiral. At Churchill Downs, he wasted no time showing his power. War Admiral grabbed the lead in the Kentucky Derby and carried it all the way home, winning by more than 1 length with his signature grit. Pimlico came next, and the pressure mounted. Rivals pushed him hard in the Preakness, but War Admiral thrived on the fight. He battled through the stretch and crossed first again, proving he had the heart of a warrior. Belmont Park delivered the drama. War Admiral stumbled badly at the break, costing him ground. For most horses, the dream would have ended there. But War Admiral refused to quit. Stride by stride, he reeled the field in, and by the finish, he was 3 lengths clear in 2 minutes 28 and 3/5, a Belmont record at the time. Years later, his fame grew even bigger in what is now known as a legendary showdown with Seabiscuit. War Admiral's Triple Crown proved that champions aren't measured in size, but in fight. One warrior down, but the next champion ran with wildfire. Number 9 on the list is Whirlaway. That flowing, wind-whipped tail earned him the name Mr. Longtail, and it was just as wild as his running style. Whirlaway veered wide and drifted around the turns in the 1941 Kentucky Derby, looking like trouble. Then he uncorked a stretch run so explosive that he won by 8 lengths, the largest margin in Derby history. The Preakness was another showcase of raw speed. He watched the leaders waste their energy up front. Then came the final furlong, where Whirlaway exploded with his late kick and stole the Preakness crown. The Belmont Stakes loomed, a 1.5 miles that has broken countless champions. Whirlaway devoured the distance with ease, galloping home to seal his Triple Crown sweep. And he wasn't finished. That summer, he captured the Travers Stakes, making him the only Triple Crown winner to ever add Saratoga's Midsummer Derby to the haul. A restless runner and a record breaker, War Admiral turned chaos into greatness. Before we roll into the next racing legend, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this video because the journey from brilliance to dominance is only heating up. At number 8, we have Count Fleet. At the 1943 Kentucky Derby, he seized control early and never let anyone close the gap. By the finish, he was 3 lengths in front, cruising with the stride of a colt who knew nobody could touch him. 14 days later in the Preakness, the margin grew even wider. Count Fleet pulled away in the stretch and left the field scattered, winning by 8 lengths, and making the Triple Crown dream look inevitable. At the Belmont Stakes, the legend was forged. At 1.5 miles, Count Fleet demolished his rivals in one of the most lopsided classics ever run. He crossed the wire 25 lengths ahead, a gap so outrageous it stunned the crowd into silence before cheers erupted. That runaway remains one of the most commanding victories in American racing history. Count Fleet didn't just win the Triple Crown. He annihilated it, stamping himself as one of the most dominant champions to ever step on a track. Moving on from this runaway power, let's meet a colt who turned flaws into fire. Number 7 goes to Assault. As a young colt, an injury left him with a deformed hoof. Many thought he'd never amount to much. But Assault proved them all wrong in 1946 when he charged into the Kentucky Derby. He stalked the leaders, then swept past in the stretch, driving home by 8 lengths in a performance that silenced every doubter. At the Preakness, he showed the same fire. Pressed early, he held steady, then powered clear in the stretch to secure jewel number 2. He was fast and so relentless that challengers had no hope of wearing him down. The Belmont Stakes was his ultimate test. The long stretch at Belmont demands perfect balance and stamina, but Assault's determination outweighed any physical flaw. He surged forward and claimed the Belmont by 3 lengths, completing his Triple Crown sweep. Fans called him the club-footed comet, not out of pity, but out of awe. Assault turned weakness into a weapon, proving heart and courage can carry a champion farther than perfect legs ever could. Courage carried our last racing legend, but precision defined the next. Locking it in at number 6 is Citation. At Churchill Downs, he stalked the leaders with cold precision before unleashing a drive that swallowed the stretch. The Kentucky Derby was his, and the crowd knew they were watching something special. 2 weeks later at Pimlico, he looked even sharper. Citation took control in the Preakness and never looked back, leaving rivals scrambling for second place. The Belmont Stakes was the ultimate test, a marathon that breaks most horses. For Citation, it was the moment to shine. He drew away with power, winning by 8 lengths in 2 minutes 28 and 1/5, and wrapping up the Triple Crown like it was second nature. But the routine for Citation was extraordinary for everyone else. After the crown, he went on a tear, winning 16 races in a row. He ran with such efficiency that jockeys compared him to a horse shifting into gears no one else had. Citation was fast, but more than that, he was inevitability in motion. For Citation, winning became routine. The next champion, though, delivered moments so electrifying they still send chills decades later. Breaking into the top 5 is Secretariat. Churchill Downs was the stage for his first masterpiece. Quarter after quarter, his speed actually increased, a feat no other Derby winner has matched. He stopped the clock in 1 minute, 59 and 2/5, the fastest Derby ever run, and that record still stands untouched. Pimlico was next, and the Preakness turned into a showcase of raw power. Secretariat unleashed a sweeping move on the first turn, roaring past the pack and driving home in 1 minute, 53 seconds, the fastest Preakness ever recorded. At Belmont Park, Secretariat broke sharply from the line, opened daylight, and just kept going. The lead stretched to 10, then 20, then an unthinkable 31 lengths at the finish. His 2:24 for the unforgiving stretch of ground remains one of the most untouchable records in all of sports. Secretariat captured the Triple Crown in a way so electrifying that the memory still sends chills down your spine. His records remain untouched, and his legend unquestioned. Now, the countdown moves to a colt who never once tasted defeat. Undefeated at number 4 is Seattle Slew. From the moment he stepped onto Churchill Downs in 1977, Slew carried himself like a horse who refused to lose. In the Kentucky Derby, he broke awkwardly and fell behind early, but his raw power was unmatched. He surged through the field, took command before the stretch, and held his advantage all the way to the wire. Victory number 1 was secured with authority. At Pimlico, the Preakness turned into another showcase of his grit. Seattle Slew jumped straight to the lead, set a demanding pace, and dared anyone to challenge him. No rival had the strength to match his drive. He stormed home to jewel number 2. Belmont Park was his crowning moment. A mile and 6 furlongs is supposed to expose flaws, but Slew had none. He controlled every stride, crossed the line by 4 lengths, and sealed his Triple Crown. Seattle Slew retired with his unbeaten streak intact, untouchable from start to finish. But drama reached its peak with a rivalry that racing fans still talk about today. Taking the 3rd spot is Affirmed. Every time Affirmed showed up in 1978, Alydar was waiting for him, and every time Affirmed had the answer. The Kentucky Derby was the first battle. Alydar charged late, but Affirmed had already built the winning margin and held on by 1.5 lengths. At the Preakness, the duel was even closer. Affirmed took the lead, Alydar came charging, but the chestnut colt dug in and crossed a neck in front. 2 classics down, 1 epic showdown left. Belmont Park delivered the climax. A mile and 6 furlongs, stride for stride, Affirmed on the rail, and Alydar breathing down his neck. The 2 colts battled the entire stretch, neither giving an inch. At the wire, Affirmed was still ahead, and the Triple Crown was his. That summer rivalry became legend. Affirmed became the champion who faced pressure head-on and proved that greatness is forged in a fight. After this rivalry, horse lovers endured a very long wait, but then rejoiced in a hero who finally broke the drought. Our runner-up is American Pharoah. For nearly 4 decades, fans waited. 13 horses had tried, 13 had failed. Then, in 2015, a smooth-striding bay colt stepped up and rewrote the story. At Churchill Downs, American Pharoah fought through a tough trip, powering home in front with his long, fluid stride. The Derby monkey was off his back, but the pressure was only building. After 2 weeks in the Preakness, the skies opened with driving rain. The sloppy track turned ugly, but American Pharoah thrived in the mud. He broke like a rocket, grabbed the lead, and never let go. Belmont Park brought the weight of history. The crowd roared as American Pharoah bounded to the front, settled into rhythm, and then pulled away with ease. He won by 5.5 lengths in 2 minutes, 26.65 seconds, completing the first Triple Crown in 37 years. That summer, American Pharoah carried hope and every fan's heart, etching his name among the Kentucky Derby winners who made history. The drought was over and history rejoiced. But one more colt was waiting to rise faster than any before him. And topping our list is Justify. Justify was a chestnut colt with raw power, a late bloomer who defied racing tradition. In a sport built on early starts, he entered the Derby without a single race at 2. That meant breaking the so-called Apollo curse, which claimed no horse without juvenile experience could win. But Justify defied history. At Churchill Downs in 2018, he powered through a sloppy, rain-soaked track, muscling past rivals and crossing the wire by 2.5 lengths. 2 weeks later, Pimlico was drowning in fog and mud. Justify stared down the challenge, seized the lead, and held off every late charge to capture the Preakness. The dream was alive. The Belmont Stakes stood as the 1.5-mile decider. Justify broke sharp, went straight to the front, and never gave anyone a chance. He finished a length and 3/4 clear, sealing the Triple Crown and retiring undefeated. From maiden debut to legend in less than 4 months, Justify's rise was meteoric. And if you want even more thrills, check out our video on unbelievable facts about the Kentucky Derby. And that's our full countdown of the 13 Kentucky Derby winners who conquered the Triple Crown. From raw power to record-shattering runs, these horses showed us what true dominance looks like. But the story of the Derby doesn't end here. If you want to see where the more recent winners went after their big day, don't miss our video on every Kentucky Derby winner since 2000 and where they are now.